Brandon Straka is a conservative activist best known for the Walkaway campaign. Now, we've had him on the show more than once to talk about it, but now he is also one of the most prominent cases from the events of January 6th of 2021. Strzok's lawyers say that the government was focused on establishing an organized conspiracy between Strzok, President Trump, and allies of the former president to disrupt the joint session of Congress on January 6th. Strzok says there was no such conspiracy. Would you please welcome back to the show to tell the real story of January 6th, Brandon Strzok. Man, since you were here before...
I've been busy.
Whoa, have you ever? First of all, let's get right to it.
Yeah.
There was a raid on your house.
Yes.
You were arrested.
Yes.
You were confined.
I was jailed.
And then you had to wear an ankle monitor for how long?
3 months.
3 months. You've been put on the TSA, like, no-fly list or terrorist watch list.
It's a terrorism watch list, yes.
All because you were at the Capitol, but you never went inside the building.
I did not. So I was actually scheduled to be a speaker at the Capitol on January 6th. A lot of people may not realize this, but there was actually supposed to be another permitted event at the Capitol after a march from the Ellipse to the Capitol. So I was approaching the Capitol when I started hearing messages from people who are watching at home on television saying, we're hearing that people are going inside. And I thought, well, that sounds unusual. So I began filming.
Yeah.
And I approached the Capitol from the east side, and I got up on the steps, and I held my camera like this for about 8 minutes on the east side Capitol steps. Now, I keep saying this because when people think about the window smashing and the struggles with police officers and things like that, that was happening on the west side of the building. I didn't witness any of that.
You saw nothing like that.
It was very calm for the most part where I was, but there was no violence, there was no window smashing, nothing like that. But the doors were open. And some people were walking inside. So I stood there filming that for about 8 minutes. And then somebody came outside of the building. He got on a bullhorn and he said, they've cleared Congress. Everyone's gone home. Everybody clear out. And I immediately cleared out. I went back to my hotel room and I uploaded my video to Twitter. And I said, this is what I saw today at the Capitol. And then it was probably about an hour after that that I started to see the footage on the news of how bad it was on the west side. And I felt bad, so I took my video down. Thought nothing of it. So 2.5 weeks later, I was quite surprised when an FBI SWAT came into my apartment, put me in handcuffs, presented me with a search warrant, and took me to jail.
What did they charge you with?
They charged me with 2 felonies and a misdemeanor. The one felony was knowingly occupying restricted grounds. That word knowingly, that is very important to them. Everybody who's getting charged on January 6th, we're the only people in the world who knew that you're not allowed to go on the steps of the Capitol. No one else seemed to know that.
I thought you could go on the steps of the Capitol. I never.
Well, you should have called me because I knowingly went on those restricted paths. The misdemeanor of disorderly conduct on Capitol grounds. And then they charged me with a felony of impeding an officer in the line of duty. Yeah, it was, this one's really hard on me. It's still very hard on me to this day. In the video that I shot, there's a moment that lasts about 6 seconds where one Capitol police officer comes to the door frame, and this is about 35 feet away from me. Somebody grabs his plastic shield out of his hand. And when the person does that, a few people in the crowd start chanting, take it, take it. The FBI said, that's you. We know that's your voice. You're the one encouraging the crowd to take the shield. So they charged me with a felony. And my lawyers and I had to spend a year working through this case. Ultimately, we got the felonies dropped. But in exchange for getting the felonies dropped, I confessed to being the person who shouted, take the shield. That was a part of my plea agreement.
So even though you didn't do it, you had to confess to that, but they dropped the felonies, so you ended up getting charged with a misdemeanor.
I ultimately got charged with a misdemeanor. I have no criminal record. This was the only crime that's on my criminal record. It's a Class B nonviolent misdemeanor, and I was sentenced after already going to jail. I spent 2.5 days in jail. I was raided. The case took a year. I was sentenced to 3 months house arrest, 3 years of probation, 60 hours of community service, the maximum fine of $5,000, and I was ordered to pay $500 restitution to the Capitol, although I didn't commit any violence or destruction to the Capitol.
Okay, so Brandon, I wonder, Does this have anything to do with the fact that you were a longtime liberal, a longtime Democrat, who decided that maybe they were lying to you?
Perish the
You
thought.
became a conservative and a Trump supporter, and the next thing you know, they got you on the ground and they're hauling you to jail. I mean, do you think there's any connection there? Just wondering.
They're not even being coy about that. I mean, in the sentencing recommendation, the government wrote a 30-page sentencing recommendation for my misdemeanor charge. My attorneys, both of my attorneys collectively have about 50 years of federal trial experience.
Yeah.
One of them said, I have handled cases with networks of drug cartels. He said, I've never seen a 30-page sentencing recommendation in my life, and for a misdemeanor charge. But in this 30-page sentencing recommendation, they said over and over again, Mr. Straka is the leader of this walkaway movement. Mr. Straka has a very large social media following. We think that this makes him particularly dangerous, particularly a risk to the community, and therefore must receive a sentence that's really going to teach him a lesson and be a deterrent.
So did you walk away from the walkaway movement?
No, absolutely not. I mean, it's been a really tough year.
I mean, you've paid a price just for taking a stand. A real price.
No, it's bad.
I'm stunned. I mean, it's like, this doesn't happen in America. But you haven't abandoned the movement that you started called Walkaway.
Oh, absolutely not. No way. And in fact, if anything, I think that I'm more emboldened, more empowered, more determined than ever to fight back against the left, because this cannot happen in this country. Yeah. I don't want to live in this type of America. But there is something that I need to say to you while I'm here. And this is going to be really hard for me to say, so I just want you to let me try to get through this, okay? This year, I had my life annihilated. I was destroyed, and I spent an entire year having the media just absolutely obliterate me, saying that I was a terrorist, a domestic terrorist, saying that I was an insurrectionist, and saying that I was encouraging an attack on a police officer. Going through this entire experience, it was almost complete silence from the Republican Party and almost complete silence from the conservative side. There were many days where I didn't even know how I was going to get through to the end of the day as I was going through this. One day, somebody reached out to me and they said, "Did you hear what Mike Huckabee said about you?" And I said, "I have no idea what you're talking about." And they forwarded me an email that you wrote and you sent to your followers, in which you said, and you didn't even know I was going to read it. You just did it to do it. But you said, they're accusing Brandon Straka of encouraging this attack on an officer. They're accusing Brandon Straka of doing all of these things. And you said, I know Brandon Straka, and this does not sound like the Brandon Straka I know, and I don't believe this for a second. And I just want to say thank you so much, because I can't tell you.
Well, I believe in you. I do.
I can't tell you how much that meant to me. Thank you.
Thank you. And Brandon, thank you for not giving up. I just want to say thank you for having the guts to just fight back and not to walk away from a movement where you're trying to get other people to say, look at what's happening to our country.
That's right.
Now, if you want to keep up with Brandon online, and I really hope you do, this guy needs your encouragement and your support. We have a link to Brandon at Huckabee.tv. You'll go directly to his walkaway movement, and I hope you can encourage some of your friends to join Brandon in walking away from the craziness that has happened in this country.